Welcome to the Rome Business School Career Toolkit podcast, where we help you navigate your career journey with insights from professionals across industries. My name is Carla, and I'm the founder of NiCons Consulting, a career consulting company based in London. And today we have a very special guest with us. We have Margo, who's a professional in the finance industry and more specifically, a compliance officer for a large international bank in London. So, welcome, Margo.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Of course, it's great to have you here, and thank you for taking the time. We're having this conversation after a long day at work, so we really appreciate you taking the time to share your experience and your tips with our students. So, Margo, can you tell us a bit about you and your career journey? Because, as I mentioned, you work in finance, but you graduated in law in Paris. Can you tell us a bit about your journey?
Yes, sure. So I've studied mainly in France. I've got a bachelor degree in law that I had in France. I did a couple of masters because I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. And then I graduated from an LLM in London. I loved the city so much that I decided to stay there. And I began at that moment to start in finance, but as a legal assistant first. Then I realized quite quickly that becoming a lawyer in London would be more complex than what I thought. So that's when I started to look around and start working in compliance.
Okay, that's great because I know one of the questions we get from students is, oh, but I've studied these, so I will have to do these my whole life. So if I study law, I can only be a lawyer or similar thing. But you found your way around that by still using everything that you've learned, but applying it to an industry that you probably have not considered when you were studying in London.
I didn't study finance. I knew nothing about finance before starting working there.
Great. Okay. But I mean, we are both in London. We love the city, but it's also a challenging place for many reasons. So, what has been the biggest professional challenge that you had to face since moving to London? How many years have you been in London for?
I've been in London, I think now it's been 2 years. So yeah, as I said, like I started studying and then I started that job as a legal assistant, not really knowing where I was going. But I guess the most challenging part was probably adapting to a different professional landscape. That was completely different from everything I knew from France. The culture, the work culture is also really different. Working in a different language as well is quite challenging.
Yeah. And in terms of work culture, do you have any practical example of things that you found different from France in the way people work or communicate in the UK?
The way they communicate, they might not be as straightforward as French people. So they might ask you really nicely, would you mind doing XYZ, which means please do it now.
Yeah. And you think it's okay, if I want, I do it. If I don't, fine. But actually,
Yes.
it's not a nice way to ask for things. It's just the way they do. Yes.
They're just really extremely polite.
Okay. So it took a while for you to adapt to this?
I think it took, once you in the professional world, probably like a couple of months to navigate and understand, oh, okay, they asked me that. And it meant actually like that lawyer meant it like he wanted it now, not tomorrow, not next week. I think, yeah, few weeks, few months in the industry. And then you can get your head around and yeah, what they want, what they mean. And you also meet a lot of colleagues within your team, so they're actually helping you. You can ask them any question. They know you just joined. They know you're from a different country, especially if you obviously put yourself out there and explain to them that you're unsure
Yeah.
what it means or what you should do.
Yeah. So clear communication for sure. A lot of listening at the beginning if you
Yeah.
are in a new environment, and also probably being in the office did help. Being in the
Yes.
same room with these people to actually listen to what they say, not just in a meeting, but on a day-to-day working.
Yes, it helps a lot. I think being in the office, especially when you're junior, it's really
Mhm.
helpful. You
Yeah.
can hear a lot of conversation that even on task you're not working on, but it gives you more insights about what the business is doing, and yeah, it gives a sense of the work you're doing, why you're doing it, and what project you're involved in as well.
That's true. Thanks for sharing that. But so how is a typical day in your job? Because we have an idea of people working in finance, probably from movies, and then we have an idea of lawyers, and you are a bit in between. So
Yes.
how is a typical day for you?
I'd say a typical day for me would be first I start reviewing the regulatory changes. I would probably advise sometimes internal teams on any compliance matters, any question they could have. And I would also be involved in working on internal policies or compliance trainings as well.
Okay. So a lot of reading and writing,
Yeah,
and
there's
in terms
also a lot
of.
of collaboration with
Mhm.
different teams between risk, legal, HR. So it's quite dynamic.
Yeah, it's not a lonely work. You don't
Yes.
work by yourself all
No.
day. You have to share the work and get,
Yes.
I guess, feedback from the different
Yes.
departments. Okay. And in terms of working hours, we also have this idea of people in London working very long hours. How is that going for you?
I'd say in a bank, it's usually between 9 and let's say 6 p.m. top.
That's that's great. Yeah,
That's
that's.
great. Yeah, in a big bank. In asset management firms, it's quite different
Mhm,
though. The hours can be longer. I guess
mhm.
when the firm is smaller, there are less people. So it's really interesting because you learn a lot. I had this experience, but you working, yeah, way longer hours.
Yeah, so you did have experience in a different
Yes.
environment.
Yes.
Okay.
Still in finance, but different structure, different firms. Not as
Okay.
big as the one as I am now.
Okay. That's great. And generally, what do you enjoy the most about working in London?
I think probably the fact that there are so many people coming from from different part of the world with different backgrounds. Um, I think yeah, this is probably what I like the most. The city is really dynamic. There's a lot of opportunities. There's also a lot of competition, but it comes with a lot of opportunities. And yeah, that's probably what I like the most about working in London. And obviously, there's also lot of things to do outside of work when you
Yeah,
finish.
of
Yeah.
course. Of course. And a lot of students that I meet, they ask me, okay, but did London change with Brexit as a city? How do you feel about that?
I think it changed a bit, but I still see people coming from different backgrounds. At least where I work, I
Hmm.
haven't seen that many difference. Maybe because I was already there, but I don't think it's.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't see the change as big as it is mentioned on online on different
Yeah.
articles. Yes.
Yeah. Well, we know media tend to
Yes.
exaggerate, but yeah, as we know now, if people want to work in London, they need a sponsorship, they need a
Yes.
visa, and the entry criteria are quite strict, and they're getting even more strict now. So it's not easy, but for certain industry like the finance industry or if you want to work with a big law firm, it's still possible to have opportunities. Yeah, definitely not as easy as it was before, but for certain industries we also have quite a high pay range because the sponsorship is connected to the pay range. There are still opportunities, so you can still find an international environment.
Yes, no, you can. And I think speaking more than one language, it's also a really good skill to have in the UK, because obviously the British people tend to speak only English.
Yeah, they're all right with their own language,
Yes,
so they don't make the effort. Yes,
yes, they don't
generally.
need to, but
Yeah.
they might have the need within the business. It
Mm.
happened to me a couple of times. I know, like, it helped for me to get hired because I could speak French, and I would
Mhm.
be directly liaising with the Paris office, for example, and it was much easier for them, for me to actually talk to them. Culture-wise, language-wise, it was easier to understand each other, and I could pass on the message or help them with other tasks.
Yeah, that's a very good point. If we're thinking about Italian students who want to go abroad, I normally suggest to look for jobs where their language skills are a selling point, because you're never going to compete with local people. I mean, we do speak English, but we will never speak at the same level, and we were not born there, etc. So the cultural understanding is different. So it's a good, very good selling point, and that can help on top, of course, of the degree, the technical knowledge, etc. of your industry. That's a very good point. And what's the most surprising thing that people don't realize about your job? Because when you say compliance, what do they think?
They probably think it's only about enforcing rules. Um,
Mm, yeah.
which, yeah, it's just like, oh, that's the rule. And then if anyone from the business would come to me, I'd just say, no, the rule is different. But it's
You are the no person.
but it's much more than that. It's
Mm,
I'd say there's a problem solving approach.
mm,
Um, there's also a bit of strategy, as it's not saying no to the risk, but it's finding a way to manage them
mm,
effectively. So
yeah.
it requires really strong communication skills, because a big part of it is working with the business to implement like solutions, but it be practical. It's doable for them, and it aligns with the regulatory requirement, but it doesn't stop the business from making money, obviously.
Yeah, that's the end goal. So
Yes, that's the end
you
goal.
have to support that within the boundaries that,
Yes.
yeah.
So you need to help them making more money and not going in jail. That's pretty
Yeah,
much it.
that's
Yes.
that's a very good way to put it. But for me, the surprising thing was also to know about all the collaboration with the internal department, because we always think it's more with the outside world to protect your entity, protect what you're doing. But I never realized it was so much with the departments of your own bank as well. So that's also a good point to make it a more human
It's more
job.
human. Yes, it's not just the rules. Obviously, we need to know the rules and we need to be able to enforce them. But yeah, there's also a lot of training with the business, talking to them, explain why we do it this way, what are the rules, and obviously asking for what are they doing and how we can help them keep doing what they're doing, but within the rules.
Yeah, and I guess there is a lot from your side, staying up to date,
Yes,
reading about the new regulations, because I guess every day there is something.
something new.
um,
Yes,
yeah, so continuous learning, I think it's
yes,
it's the
also.
right
Yes,
word
it's true.
here.
It never ends. Yes.
Great. And I mean, you've been working for a number of years now. If you had one piece of advice for someone looking to break into the finance industry in London, what would it be?
I think probably not being scared to get into the industry by any entry point. Could be in risk, could be in operations. For me, it was compliance, but it could be even as an assistant. Like once you have a foot in the door, then you can actually meet people, network, talk to them, and there are usually lots of opportunity internally. So you could grow inside the company. In the UK, they're really keen on that as well. And you don't even need a traditional like banking background or financial background to get through those entry points. So I think that's probably what I would have liked to know as well when I started as an assistant, and I thought, oh, maybe I'm never gonna make it. Yes,
Yeah, so to start where you can,
where you
and
can.
then move it from there. Yeah, because I hear a lot, and I know London is challenging for entry level. So this is probably more of a general suggestion when people want to work in a different country. I hear a lot of I would go if I have a very good opportunity to go. It's not going to happen. Nobody, no recruiters is just searching on LinkedIn for someone in a different country and asking them to move out of the blue. So I always say that has to be very intentional, and you can start, from wherever role you might find, and then it's so much easier to grow, change, move
Yes.
from
Once you're
within.
in, it's so much easier because you'd meet people. And even if you can't move internally, you would
Yeah,
meet probably someone who knows someone who knows someone. And they
yeah,
work in the same probably industry. And oh, there's a job opening, and that would be perfect. And that person can refer you directly. So yeah, it helps to be in, because I find it sometimes difficult to network at events,
Mhm.
financial events, and things like that. It's also a possibility,
Yeah.
um, but
But
I think
it's
it's
intimidating for a lot of
yes,
people.
it's not easy,
Mm.
even to reach out to the right people during those events. They might just stick between people, obviously they know each other, and they might just have a drink with their colleagues, and you might not have the opportunity to chat with them. Well, yeah, rather than if you're in the industry, no matter how you get in,
Yeah.
yeah, you at some point will meet the right people.
Yeah, but also that there has to be an element of proactivity when
Yes,
you enter a new office, a new environment. You have to let people know that you are there, that you exist, because it's not something that will always come from other people. So there has to be kind of a proactive approach, and
yes.
also probably accept the fact that it's going to be difficult to do that. Maybe, I don't know how it is for you, but sometimes it might still be difficult to
Yeah,
approach.
sometimes it's still difficult. But I feel at least in the UK, because I've worked only in the UK, but they usually organize events, they organize drinks, and I think even if you know no one in the company and you start like a week ago, 10 days ago, you need
Mm.
to go. You need to go. You need to mix and mingle. People are. It's usually the moment they're not busy working. They'll have time to talk to you, to get to know you. You can talk about your background in a more casual way. And I feel, at least for me, when I started, that was probably the way that I got to know and to meet a lot of people, including directors, partners, managers from different teams, and it was great.
Of course, yeah. Career growth is not just about your technical skills and how hard you work. So there is an element of creating connections, getting yourself known, so that people remember you whenever they're looking for someone. Because it's a human thing of, whenever you have an opportunity, you immediately think about the people you know, that of course are competent and right for the job. But it's very important to know people and connect with people outside of office
Yes.
environment whenever possible. Yeah, that's good. Do you have any last piece of advice for students who just maybe graduated and are looking for jobs, so starting a new career?
I'd probably say to be quite flexible. And open to change, being quite adaptable, staying adaptable. I feel London is a city that it keeps changing. Jobs are changing. All the industries are changing. It's a really fast-paced environment, and I think sometimes like the best opportunities, they're not the one you planned for. If I think about myself, I wanted to stay in the legal field. I was planning to probably become a paralegal or solicitor, and I moved to compliance, and I don't regret it at all, but I wasn't expecting that kind of opportunity.
Yeah, because when we study, we have ideas of how a job is going to be, what does it mean to be a paralegal. We maybe hear things, again, we watch TV series and we get ideas of what that job is going to be, but then reality is different. And as you said, the jobs in general are changing very quickly, so we do have to be flexible and just open to different opportunities. That's great advice. So I would like to thank you very much for sharing all your experience and tips with us. I'm sure that's very helpful for the alumni of Rome Business School. And thank you very much.
Thank you.
I will see you next time with the next guest on the Career Toolkit podcast. Thank you for following us.